Welcome to Open Range, and my name is Dustin Geverlow. My regular day job is as the managing director of the North Dakota Watchdog Network, and you've seen me on here with Gary Ameneth, and I've filled in a few times. Between now and the election, I will be hosting primarily on Tuesdays, a little bit more, talking to candidates at the legislative and local level. We'll be talking primarily about fiscal issues, state transparency, government transparency in general, and things that are affecting everybody. We're going to try to avoid a lot of those hot button culture war issues and stick more with the financial taxpayer issues, so that's why we're calling it Taxpayer Tuesday. And with me today is State Representative Mike Machenbacher. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Dustin. How about you?
Oh, pretty good. So how's your summer going?
It's hot.
Yes.
Not enough golf, too much work, not enough fishing, getting ready to send another kid off to college. So yeah, it's been a busy summer, but still had a little bit of time to get out and enjoy the weather, and even if it's 100, 105, 107 degrees, whatever it is. So, but yeah, no, enjoying it.
Yeah. So you've been in the legislature now since 2022.
Yep.
And you are in that first wave of legislators that are subject to the new term limits rules, and we'll get to that whole discussion, which is its own Pandora's box later in the show. But for those that don't know you, why don't you give us a little bit of your history and your background of what got you into politics and you know, what you're hearing from people as you're campaigning for re-election.
Yeah, sure. Well, like Dustin said, State Representative Mike Machenbacher from District 47, which is in the northwest area of Bismarck here. And I've been married for almost 26 years now. I've got 4 kids between the ages of 15 and 22. So we're slowly getting them out of the house one by one here. And, you know, I spent the first 30 years of my career in the hospitality industry, you know, managing a hotel for about 18 or 19 years or so. And then in 2020, did a career change, and I'm now working in the charitable gaming industry. But, you know, I first became interested in politics back in the year 2000 when the team of Dever, Dosh, and Meyer were running down there, and that was the year they unseated 3 incumbent Democrats. And I kind of knew at that point I was addicted to politics already. You know, I really enjoyed that, and you know, doing, you know, marched in the parades and did some door-to-door for them and helped with some events they had and such, and really enjoyed it. And you know, and then in 2005 I moved into District 47, and of course got involved in the district there and such. And then shortly after that, I think is when I met you in the gang back in what, 2009, 2010, something like that. And
2006 is when I first met you.
Was it 2006? Okay, it was, yeah. So we've known each other for quite some time now, and that's when we formed the Citizens for Responsible Government group, and we've talked, you know, off air about that quite a bit, and kind of reliving those days back then. And you know, that was in response to a initiative that was being put on by the Bismarck Park District to build the aquatic center, and we had some issues with it, not so much having issues with the project itself, just the funding mechanisms and the lack of transparency back in the day. And so that was kind of my first, I guess, go at you know, a measure and getting involved in something like that. And then after that, you know, we had created a little bit of a buzz, I guess. So we formed the North Dakota Tea Party Caucus, which you remember well, and that was, you know, a group of pretty well-known individuals around the state. There was, you know, Ed Schaefer was involved in that, and Scott Hennon was involved, and Rob Port, and yourself and myself, of course. So, you know, and we traveled around the state for, I don't know, a couple of years, I suppose, and our main goal at that time was just to create awareness and get people involved in, especially in local politics and such. And I think we were very successful. And you know, several of the people that we met back then are now city commissioners, county commissioners, state legislators, and such like that. So a lot of them did get involved and elected at the time. And you know, like you mentioned, and 2022, I ran for the state legislature after longtime Representative George Kaiser passed away in late 2021. And that was the first time that I got elected to anything. And I think it's been successful and very rewarding, and glad I did it. And that's currently I'm during the 2 sessions I've served on the political subdivisions committee and also on the tax and finance committee, and both have been very rewarding. I have learned so much about how politics works and how difficult it is to actually change laws, and you have to be very convincing and make sure that you have a good argument. And but it's been very rewarding, just even getting to know the people in the district, learning what their priorities are, see where they're at on the scale and such like that. So yeah, just really enjoyed it. And the last thing you asked, I think, was how was the campaign going? We didn't have any primary challengers, but now we have 3 Democrat challengers and 1 independent challenger in the general election. So you're going to see a lot of yard signs and a lot of advertisements and such like that coming up here, and so it'll be a good time over the next 99 days, I think it is, until the election now. So I guess the other good thing is I'll get back in good shape, putting on about 20,000 steps a day, going door to door. So looking forward to that too.
Every time that I've run for office and actually done the door to door as I should, I've generally lost about 20 pounds in the summer working door to door, because you lose it real fast, and there's less time to eat too. So
yeah, no, that's right.
That works out well. And District 47 always likes to call itself the most Republican district in the state, and for many cycles, the Democrats failed to really bring anybody to the table as far as candidates, and so they've the fact that they've got a full roster, and then also you've got an independent running, is a little bit more competition, and obviously you can't take it for granted this time around. And we'll get into a lot more of the dynamics in the Republican Party, but with your background with some conservative groups like the Tea Party, I think that you kind of have an interesting spot in the Republican Party. I kind of consider you to be kind of the borderline of what I call the middle Republicans, which is, between the moderates and the hardcore conservatives. You're kind of the line between those two things. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's probably not the easiest thing.
Well, I really try to represent the constituency, and there's times that I've voted probably not how I wanted to vote, for my personal self, whatever, but how I thought that I would, my vote would represent the district for the betterment and such. So you really have to be cognitive of that. That remember, you are representing the people that are in your district. So, and yeah, I am probably, just like we said, kind of right in that fine line. I just consider myself a traditional conservative, and I think that's a good spot to be, especially in my district.
And that line is always moving. I mean, when we first met, we were probably as conservative as you could get, and now it's the spectrum on both the left and the right has expanded so far, and as well as what part of that spectrum is electable, especially on the right. It's changed the dynamics so much, and we'll get more into it later. But just off the bat, do you have any comments about some of the dynamics in the Republican Party lately that have caused some of these divisions that we've seen?
Well, there's certainly differences, and I've said this 1,000 times too. A quote, Ronald Reagan's quote, that your 80% friend is not your 20% enemy, and I strongly believe in that we're all playing on the same team, on the right of center elected officials and such, and some of us I really think we vote together more often than one would think, but it's that 10, 15, 20% of the time where you differ, where that causes the rift. And that's when the name calling starts, and which I don't play any of that. I'm gonna just put my head down in the wind and keep moving forward, and not play that game or whatever you want to call it. but yeah, there's definitely some people, I guess no love lost on our side. But that's not so much at a state level, but at a federal level, you're starting to see that on the Democrat side too now with your Democratic socialists that are now starting to make waves in the Democratic Party, and some of the mainstream Democrats are now starting to separate themselves from that. So, it's not just our side of the aisle that has that similar issue. There's going to be rifts, and it's the same way for them. They probably agree on 80% of things, but they're calling each other out in the 20% that they don't. So, that's where like I said, everyone needs to realize that they're on the same team. And we need to move forward that way. It's just my opinion.
Yeah, it definitely has created a lot of animosity, and we got less than a minute here in this first segment. Do you see a lot of that same animosity in the elected class of Republicans as is happening in kind of the party infrastructure class?
There is some, probably not as prominent as it is, out in the media and such, where, the voters or the constituents maybe are a little more vocal about it. But we, as legislators, you're not always going to get along, and you might have some, and you've seen them, you've spent many a time there, you'll have some long drawn out debates and some, maybe go on longer and are a little testy at times, but, at the end of the day, we are still all friends,
Absolutely. We'll be right back talking with Representative Mike Maschenbacher.
Stop out to our facility, Highway 22 South. Let us build a truck for you.
Find relief for what ails you at Steepney Tea Apothecary. Teas, supplements, tinctures, and more. Formulated to fight whatever has you down. We're Bismarck Mandan's favorite place to find delicious, natural, and easy ways to alleviate symptoms brought on by anything from colds to cancer. Brew a better you at Steepney Tea Apothecary. Steepney products may cause side effects, including but not limited to improved mood, deeper sleep, enhanced hydration, renewed sense of smell, increased energy levels, superior balance, boosted immunity, proper digestion, restored sense of calm, and a delightful smelling home.
Welcome to Arrowhead Cleaners. Newly renovated, modernized, and ready to make your cleaning needs hassle-free. From commercial and residential wash and fold laundry services to the latest in professional dry cleaning techniques, we are dedicated to your unique needs, offering alterations, fabrications, and even custom hat making. So whether you're a busy professional, a family on the go, or even a rodeo champion, Arrowhead Cleaners is here to take your things from messed up to dressed up. Now celebrating our 64th year in Arrowhead Plaza.
Welcome to Radiant Retreat Tanning and Spa in Mandan, where a relaxing spa experience meets the latest in healing innovations. Take total control of your massage in our Hydro Massage Bed. Experience whole body healing in our Zero Body Cryo Bed. Let our salt sauna and halo generator restore your respiratory and skin health. And of course, tailored tanning will keep you looking as good as you feel. Discover your best self at Radiant Retreat, 1307 First Street Northeast, Mandan.
Are you dealing with arthritis, nerve and back pain, dry skin, or superficial wounds, but found no relief? Give Stewart's Natural Health a try. For over 4 decades, Stewart's Natural Health has been helping people and animals with herbal and natural oil lotions, ointments, and creams with a mission to help you relieve pain and feel your best using the power of nature. Discover the safe, drug-free solution to your pain, guaranteed or your money back. Visit stewartsnatural.health today.
West River Equipment of Mandan is here to help you maintain peak productivity in your operation. As an authorized dealer for many high-quality equipment lines, we have the new and used equipment it takes to make your farming, ranching, or construction operation profitable and efficient. West River Equipment also has the parts on hand and the experienced technicians in our shop to get your equipment back in action fast. Find what you need at West River Equipment on Old Red Trail in Mandan.
Welcome back to Open Range. I'm Dustin Geverlow. And today I'm talking with Representative Mike Machenbacher of District 47 in Bismarck. In this segment, we're going to hit some heavier issues. And frankly, I think that a lot of legislators aren't really cognizant of the really heavy economic data that is out there about North Dakota. And you know, we're talking about this issue yesterday, in fact, and it's something that's it's deep in the weeds regarding North Dakota's economic figures and GDP numbers. And you know, when the legislature talks about things like economic development and growth and budgets, oftentimes we look at the nominal figures going up. There's other than like in the 2014 and 2017 era where we had the oil crash, North Dakota's budget has kind of been a one-way ticket up all these years. And a lot of the policies that the legislature looks at are designed to make North Dakota more competitive nationally and attractive to business. We know that our tax policy has gotten a lot better in the last 20 years. When I first started in 06, we were ranked in the mid-30s for tax policy, and now we're generally in that, not necessarily top 10, but maybe 12 or 13 level. But the one thing that is always an issue is the access to capital, and that has created a lot of dynamics where the state believes that it has to provide more and more subsidies or economic development, depending on how you look at it. And another metric that a lot of outside entities look at is the Federal Reserve numbers. When it comes to North Dakota's economy as a whole, to know whether it's growing, that will tell them whether it is worth investing into North Dakota. And one thing that I've discovered over the last 3 years really is that the data that the Federal Reserve puts out, and we can put that up there as figure number 1, and it is kind of hard to look at. The top chart there is what we call the nominal GDP for the state of North Dakota. That's without factoring in inflation. And it kind of looks like it's on a nice upward trajectory. But in the bottom figure, you'll see when you factor in the inflation level, and the Federal Reserve, for whatever reason, chains their numbers to 2017 as kind of the pivot point for inflation. And when you do that, basically you see that for the last almost 20 years, that North Dakota's GDP has essentially been plateaued and flat with some temporary downward activity. So when inflation is taken into account, the economy itself is not growing as well and as strongly as it may appear just looking at the raw numbers. And from what the folks that I've talked to about this in the past, they say this is one of the things that the outside investors look at, is how big is the pie growing? And that determines whether or not they're going to invest in North Dakota. And when they look at the inflation adjusted figures, it does not, other than the oil activity, which is an up and down, very fluid and fluctuating thing, there's not a lot of growing of the whole pie. And you know, I know that you're not an economist, but do any of these really heavy issues get discussed amongst legislators, not just in committee level, but just in private? Do folks talk about these sort of things as far as what are the challenges? What is the actual cause for the need for all the government spending that we see?
Well, to answer your question about do we talk about it, absolutely we talk about it. I know we're only in session for 4 months every 2 years, but most of us that are elected officials are addicted to this stuff, and you don't just talk about it for 4 months. You talk about it during the entire interim. Lots of meetings with interested groups and such in the interims, and just private phone calls and meetings, amongst legislators and stuff, and trying to figure out ways that we can conquer the issues we have. And North Dakota has some great things going for us, but we also have some challenges. And one of the challenges, is a lack of workforce, and we've got such a low unemployment rate that there's not a lot of people out there looking for jobs actively. So that what we have to do then is we have to incentivize people to move to the state, and it's difficult to do that when you have winter 6 months out of the year. So you might have people that are interested in the work, interested in the jobs that are available and such, but then they look like, God, can I live in an area that has 30 below zero and you don't see the sun for 2 months? It's so.
And when you do, it's 107.
And when you do, yeah, and when the sun comes out, it sure lets you know it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we have challenges like that. So, we've got choices on how we can attract people to the state and attract workforce. One of them is you can incentivize them with, you're talking. Providing capital or forgivable loans, whatever, to companies as a kind of a carrot that you dangle for them to locate their facilities here in North Dakota. That's not my favorite way to do it, and I'm not a big fan of that. What I'd like to concentrate more on is, make North Dakota a state where people want to move to, because it's low regulation, low tax, it's safe for the people to be there. There's still enough, entertainment value, that they can stay entertained while they're here and such. And that's why I, really pushing the low regulation stuff. I believe if government just gets out of the way and you create an environment for the entire state, not only for, personal reasons, but for the businesses to relocate here. If it's easier for them, if you don't have to go through 6 months of red tape to bring a business here or whatever, and stuff like that, I think creates an environment for everybody, not just for single companies like you insinuated there. So that's kind of what I think is the way we should continue to move, is just make it a more attractive place for everybody, businesses and and personal too.
Yeah, and a lot of times folks that are critical of what the state does, they look just at the chart of state spending growth. And that is a pretty ugly chart from a conservative aspect. Now, we know that a lot of that was during the boom, and the Republican Party certainly had we got to spend it because we've got it mentality. Another chart from the Federal Reserve that I found interesting, and we can go to figure number 2 here, is the GDP in real inflation terms when you take out government spending entirely. And, that is pretty ugly, because it shows that when we have steep declines, they're really steep. And it insinuates that government spending in North Dakota is really propping up the economy to a greater extent than the economy at large in America. And I am not a Keynesian economist, but a Keynesian economist would look at those charts and use that as some supporting evidence that, there is an issue here, that this economy is not growing on its own, and that's why we got to justify all of this corporate welfare and subsidies. And the question is, over the 20 years, there's been a lot of activity and action done as far as deregulating, lowering state taxes. We've lowered the state income tax well over 60%, both on the personal and the corporate, since 2006. We've definitely reduced the burden of paperwork, whether you're dealing with business registrations or filings. And in general, the state spends a lot of time fighting the federal government over regulations and trying to take things that normally the federal government would regulate and adopt state policies that try to draw some of those things away from the feds, the Department of Environmental Quality being probably the pinnacle of that, which was one of Kelly Armstrong's flagship issues before he went to Congress even. And so I guess the roundabout question on this, as we get to the end of the segment here, is what discussions are being had these days to go beyond what has been done already to try to improve this and get these charts and metrics, which are the only thing that we can go by as far as the results of what's been happening on the policy side. What's in the works that's being discussed to really shift things in the right direction, or in a more aggressive direction, let's say?
Well, there's 2 or 3 things that I know has been addressed several times since the last session here. Affordability is one of the #1 issues right now. And in the last session, we did the $1,600 property tax primary credit that we did. So that, I actually brought a copy of my property tax bill if we wanted to hit on that later. But, instead of spending $5,000-6,000 on a property tax bill every year, now with and this counts as state spending, every time we do tax relief like this too. So that's one of the reasons why you do see some elevated spending from the state is due to tax relief. And then of course, when the legislature passed in 2017, I believe it was when they took over the county social services, that was a significant increase. I'll tell you this, I've spent a significant amount of time driving around the country over the past few years. The infrastructure that we have in place as far as roads and stuff like that, you drive to some of these other states, we've spent a significant amount on infrastructure, and I think that was that's good spending if you compare it to other states and such. But yeah, we could go into all kinds of different areas of spending and stuff, but I think that's why you see a spike.
Yeah. In our next segment, we're going to focus on property taxes, and we'll be right back talking with Representative Mike Machenbacher.
Base Flug Trailers of Dickinson is a family-owned dealer with expert staff that know their products front to back. We stock over 150 units of all types and can custom order a trailer with the unique features and capabilities you require for brands you can trust. Our experienced service team is the reason we're also the best place to have your trailer customized or repaired. Count on Base Flug Trailers of Dickinson to keep you hauling.
Come on in and experience small-town hospitality and the personalized care that makes car buying a pleasure.
We know that every journey starts with the right car. Whether it's school drop-off, weekend road trips, or your daily commute, we have the right vehicle for you and your family.
With trusted brands, affordable prices, and a team that treats you like family, finding your next car has never been so easy.
We pride ourselves on personal attention and quality service. Bassett Motors, where our customers send their friends.
Yeah, U.S. Cattlemen is a member organization that each member has a vote in anything we do with policy. We're representing the independent cattleman or the cow-calf guy or an independent feeder or whatever. We like to support the independent producer. We're talking about mandatory ID, we're talking about COOL, we're talking about all the legislation that's going to be coming down with the new administration. There's going to be lots of moving and shaking. So always check us out at our website, uscattleman.org.
We're talking to people today about investments. Let's see if we can get somebody. Excuse me, sir, do you have a retirement account?
I do. I'm invested in some annuities.
Fixed income? How is that?
It was better a few years ago. Each year, it buys less and less, barely keeping up.
That's where gold can make a difference. Unlike fixed payouts, gold rises with inflation, so you're not stuck with a low fixed payment.
So gold isn't stuck in the past like my annuity?
Don't let inflation erode your retirement savings. Invest in gold. Invest with Noble Gold Investments.
I'm $27,000 in credit card debt.
Okay.
You have to radically do something different, because if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting.
Now's not the time to be doing math. The time to be doing math was when we didn't go into $200,000 of debt.
If you are freaked out and you're stuck in these debt payments and you think it has to be a part of your life, it doesn't.
We are ladies of Another View. Join us every weekday morning at 9:00 a.m. as we discuss the big topics from North Dakota, the nation, and around the world.
We chat with everyone from celebrities and medical professionals to politicians, local business owners, and neighbors about the topics and stories that affect all of us.
We are unscripted and uncensored real news from real people. So join us every weekday morning for Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Welcome back to Open Range. I'm Dustin Geverlow, and with me today is State Representative Mike Machenbacher from District 47 here in Bismarck. And in this segment, we're going to dig into the thing that takes up probably half of the oxygen in the legislature every session is property taxes. And this has been an ongoing, eternal fight for the last 20 years at least, probably more than that, just that's how long I've been paying attention. Over the last 2 decades, we've seen a string of, it started with the buy-down programs where the state's putting more money into local government with just the hope that they can keep property taxes down. We had a series of years where there were large tax credits that were applied. The state increased the state's share to K-12 education. And we can go to figure 3 there, Luke. And this is really eye-opening, which is if you go back to 2004 and you look at the amount of state spending that has gone into local government, we've gone from just over $1 billion every biennium to $5.5 billion every biennium. And we now are in an era where in the 2025 legislative session, the legislature finally did something that it refused to even touch with a 10-foot pole for the last 20 years, which is actually put in a cap, a 3% cap on local government, saying you can only increase your revenue from existing property by 3% a year. Anything that you want to raise beyond that, you've got to be generating through new building and growth, organic growth, because that's the only way that we're going to get a handle on what has been spent at the local level, because no matter how much the state spends in the name of reducing property taxes, if there is no limit to the local government's ability to increase, then the state is really just throwing money into a black hole. Now, the converse to a lot of that is that so much of the property tax law and rules are dictated by the state and by the legislature, whether the state and the legislature want to admit it or not. Things like valuations. The local governments are in charge of valuations, but they have to follow the rules that the legislature puts in place, and if they don't, the State Equalization Board can come in and overrule them and tell them that they're not following the rules and basically set the levels of values for properties regardless of what the locals think. We saw that a decade ago in Emmons County, where Emmons County refused to increase their valuations and the state said, you're increasing. I've gotten contacted about several counties in the state where they're having similar issues with just keeping up with things. We've seen lots of issues over the years regarding the private evaluators of property being brought in by local government, and then citizens spending a lot of time and money to fight those rulings on their property. And the cap and the program with a $1,600 tax credit this last cycle was put in to get ahead of that and to alleviate that issue for primary residence taxpayers. It doesn't necessarily do much to help the commercial side of things, but the commercial has gotten other benefits through lower corporate taxes and those sort of things at the state level. And so we're now into year number 2 of this program. And what are you seeing and hearing both from citizens, actually we're in year number 1, what are you seeing and hearing from citizens as far as, do they feel like this is working the way it was sold as? And then beyond that, government officials, how are they approaching this?
I think there's a lot of questions in there, but I'll try to get to all of them here. But from the citizens, what I'm hearing is there really the $1,600 property tax credit we did has been very beneficial. The $500 they thought was peanuts, and that's what I was hearing from people too. And at the time, it's all we could get passed. But we were in a good financial position last legislative session. We were able to increase that to $1,600, and now I'm hearing that, I'm actually having people say thank you because this now made a difference. $1,600 made a significant. I mean, that was like 40%, of my property taxes, so that's a significant decrease. So from the citizens, I've heard positive, but now the challenges we're going to face from a legislative perspective is just what you said. There is some pushback from some of the counties and local subdivisions and such with a 3% cap, and we knew that was going to happen. You're never going to create something that's going to work perfectly right out of the gate. So there are going to have to be some tweaks. We did put it in there to where if a local subdivision wanted to put it on the ballot and their own taxpayers in their local jurisdiction voted, they can increase that, that 3% cap. So that was in there. I have not heard of any local jurisdictions doing that yet. I'm assuming it will be attempted. Maybe, I think it's probably a little early, and they didn't want to try it yet. We just want to see how they can work this out. But I don't know if you remember this, Dustin, but the first time that I ever testified in front of a legislative committee hearing was I testified in opposition to the first property tax buy-down. And I remember it was Lieutenant Governor Dalrymple at the time introduced the bill. And there was 3 people that testified against the bill, and you were one, and I was one. And not that I didn't want the money to go back to the taxpayers, but I was worried about the cap. There was no cap on it. And I said that my concern is that if we give the money back, that they're going to backfill the savings. And that's exactly what happened. And so it took several sessions to, tweak it and whatever, make it better and stuff. But so yeah, the 3% cap that we just imposed this last time, I think was really a necessary evil. And just to be honest, I really think if you asked every legislator one-on-one, they would, most of them anyways, would rather not have to deal with property taxes because the majority of us think it is a local issue. But when the citizens are stating that my property tax is too high and they come to us, we can't just sit idle and not do anything. So that's why we have put these things in place. So it was in response to the citizens' requests that we have to do something about property taxes, so we did. But yes, it is a local issue, but the legislature certainly has their hands in it when it comes to stuff like valuations, like you mentioned too. So it's not an easy task. I mean, we spent a lot of time, and if you remember last session, I think there was 17 conference committee meetings to try to get that bill where it was at, and I think finally both sides just gave a little at the end and came up with what we had. But it's not an easy issue. It is. There's so many things that are touched by property taxes, and you don't want to take away local control. But in this case, it's something that we felt like we almost had to do.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things for so many years legislators ran on doing something, and the something was never as effective as it was supposed to be because there was no limit. You can't fix a problem if you're not in charge of the situation at the bottom. So either the solution was the Rick Becker solution of just get rid of property taxes entirely, or you have to do something to get to a point where the state says, okay, we'll support this, we'll back you up and alleviate the taxpayer burden, but you've got to put the clamp down. And at some point, this cannot be a bottomless thing for local government to utilize. In Burleigh County, I was a part of the Home Rule Charter Commission in 2024 that put on the ballot a measure to create a sales tax that would replace law enforcement property tax costs at the county level. The citizens passed that. Now we are seeing that may be used as as a mechanism to punish, because Burleigh County got out ahead of the problem, and the 3% cap does not take into account counties that tried to fix their own issues. We've only got a couple minutes here in this segment left, but what are your thoughts on making it so that local governments that are trying to do the right thing don't get punished by the state policy?
Well, you're absolutely right that was one of the issues. In fact, I brought that up in the Tax and Finance Committee, that we were actually punishing those counties and such that were being fiscally responsible. And my concern that I stated in the committee was that every taxing jurisdiction is going to max out their mills to get it as high as possible, so that's your new baseline. And I don't think that happened. It was a concern. I just wanted to make sure, but that's why we had to put the caps on them too. But so, what was the second part of your question again? I lost track.
How do we make it so that if local government is trying to do the right thing, they don't get punished by the state rules?
Well, I'd say this: it's very difficult to pass laws that affect counties differently. You pass a state law; it's usually a blanket, and it means the same thing to everybody. It's hard to pick out, counties or cities that did the right thing and the ones that maybe didn't do the right thing, and treat them differently. So I don't know if you can. It's probably too late in the game to incentivize them. I mean, if someone has an idea, we're all certainly willing to listen, but I don't know the answer to that. But like I said, it's difficult to pass a law that's different from one county to the other.
I think that the easiest thing to do would be to say is, if your local government passed a tax to swap out property taxes, that gets treated as part of the baseline in lieu of property taxes. And as a result, so that percentage can go higher on a dollar basis. The percentage would still be 3%, but the dollar impact of that percentage would be on a larger base. That's all we've got for segment 3 here. In the next segment, we'll be going to the lightning round, so stay tuned to Open Range.
That concept of deodorant and the concept of stinky man body, and really putting it into perspective of how you've come up with a product that is going to take care of that day in and day out.
That's right. Absolutely. Took a lot of work, a lot of formulations, a lot of process to make sure that we're making a product that actually stands up to the rigors of what guys do on a daily basis. And, I feel very confidently to say that we've delivered on that experience.
So we're in a time where we're more cognizant about the things we're putting in our body, and really more importantly, the things we're putting on our body. And aluminum has been a big part of deodorant and masking scent and all the different things for a number of years. You pulled that piece that's kind of been that, I don't want to say not healthy, but the piece that people really wanted to eliminate. You eliminated it and still come up with a really good product.
Welcome to Arrowhead Cleaners. Newly renovated, modernized, and ready to make your cleaning needs hassle-free. From commercial and residential wash and fold laundry services to the latest in professional dry cleaning techniques, we are dedicated to your unique needs, offering alterations, fabrications, and even custom hat making. So whether you're a busy professional, a family on the go, or even a rodeo champion, Arrowhead Cleaners is here to take your things from messed up to dressed up. Now celebrating our 64th year in Arrowhead Plaza. Are you dealing with arthritis, nerve and back pain, dry skin, or superficial wounds, but found no relief? Give Stewart's Natural Health a try. For over 4 decades, Stewart's Natural Health has been helping people and animals with herbal and natural oil lotions, ointments, and creams with a mission to help you relieve pain and feel your best using the power of nature. Discover the safe, drug-free solution to your pain, guaranteed or your money back. Visit stewartsnatural.health today.
Ashley, North Dakota is where life moves a little slower, but never gets dull. From hunting, camping, and fishing to safe streets where kids can be kids, this is the best of small town living. And Ashley offers everything you need, from healthcare to hardware to countless ways to stay active. Here, we've invested in our future with major upgrades to roads, parks, and education. Whether you're here for the day or here for life, you'll find Ashley's where you ought to be.
There's never been a better time to rediscover the style, reliability, and all-season, all-terrain fun of the all-new Nissan lineup at the new and improved Ryan Nissan. Whether it's the sleek and stylish Murano, the adventure-ready Pathfinder, or the reimagined, ready-for-anything 2026 Rogue, the all-new Ryan Nissan has the vehicle of your dreams at a price perfect for any budget. It's time to rediscover your passion for the road. It's time to rediscover the all-new Ryan Nissan, engineered to endure.
Welcome back to Open Range. My name is Dustin Geverlow, and today I've been talking with Mike Machenbacher, who is a state representative from District 47 in Bismarck. Mike, are there any issues that you're working on that you can talk to us about, or is it tough?
I've actually got 5 or 6 bills drafted already. Really nothing I can discuss in detail yet. They're all still in the works. There's lots of variables that go in these things. I want to make sure before I announce anything that they're in a good format and such. So nothing I can talk about right now, but I can tell you, some of my priorities going in the next session. I really want to help try to get the kinks out for this property tax relief program that we started now 2 sessions ago. And really come up with something that's going to be sustainable, so we can continue to do this for the next several years. And there are going to be some tweaks, maybe with the 3% cap like we talked about and such too. So I'm sure I'll be involved in that if I'm back on finance and tax again. One of the things I really started to hit on last session was trying to make post-secondary education a priority to try to make it more affordable, because it's gotten out of hand. And I'm sending my 3rd kid off to college here now. I've seen firsthand now how much money these kids are spending for education nowadays. So I've been a little bit creative, and I had a bill, one bill passed last session and one bill that narrowly failed last session, that are working towards making college more affordable for kids too. So that's one thing I'll continue to do, and that's probably the majority of it. And if I could get rid of state income tax by snapping my fingers, I'd do that too. But we'll see if we can make more progress on that.
Yeah, higher education, student debt, student loans has always kind of been my pet liberal issue, and it sounds like you're realizing why it has been a little bit.
The bills are starting to come in. Let's just put it that way. My oldest child graduated in December of last year, and now he's making the loan payments on it, but I'd see how much he's paying every month. And he was at UND for 3.5 years and graduated a little early, thank God. He saved a semester there and stuff. But nothing against UND. It's just that's what the cost is.
Yeah.
And let's get creative to see what we can utilize, what we have in North Dakota, to make that more affordable.
Yeah. So let's jump into what I call the lightning round, which are the big issues that are getting a lot of the publicity lately, and starting with one that I've been heavily involved with in 2 states is CO2 pipelines. The Summit Carbon Solutions pipeline, it's very clear that from a PR standpoint, they really did everything wrong.
Correct.
The state of North Dakota also did not have its ducks in a row as far as putting in place the laws and the mechanisms and the policies to do it. We've seen the pore space law that the legislature passed that would have ended up being where the CO2 was put underground. That's been declared unconstitutional. The state's still appealing it to the Supreme Court, but it's pretty clear what direction that's going. What are your positions on things like this? Because Republicans really have a schizophrenic approach to CO2 in North Dakota. On the one hand, they want to sound like they're against the Green New Deal, they're against the climate change rhetoric from the left, but on the other hand, the energy industry, coal, oil industry really sees the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow as far as federal subsidies and tax credits, and they want to take advantage of this, and it puts North Dakota Republicans in a very bad spot because they have to talk out of both sides of their mouth. How are you balancing that particular issue?
Well, there's 2 different subjects there. Carbon sequestration and then the CO2 pipelines, which are 2 different things. And the pipelines themselves, we've already got 2 pipelines in North Dakota. I believe one's importing and one's exporting. So it's nothing new. You were right when you said that Summit kind of dropped the ball when they came to town, and I don't think the first group of representatives they sent in here didn't know what North Dakota Nice was all about, and I think they stepped on some toes, and they probably are themselves to blame for not getting that done correctly. With the pipelines, though, I hear from the coal industry and the oil industry that they are going to need CO2 for their enhanced oil recovery and such like that, and the coal industry is going to need it. The fear is if we get another Democrat administration at a federal level and they decide that coal isn't clean enough, that they could shut down all the coal plants. So this is kind of hedging a little bit if we can get the CO2 to where they can use that to extract the rare earth minerals, which is another thing that we are going to need for all kinds of things. We can basically repurpose what our coal mines are doing. Instead of using them for energy, you can use them for rare earth minerals and stuff. So that's what the industries are telling us. And I'm not a geologist and I'm not an economist like you mentioned earlier, but I have no reason to not believe them that this is what they need moving forward. So with the sequestration and the Q45 credits you mentioned, you're right. It's a difficult issue because if we don't take the money, somebody else will. And so you got to weigh that. I mean, is it worth it for us, or do we want to just say, no, thank you, go give it to another state? So I guess that's where I'm at, on those right now. Proceed with caution is basically what I say for most things like that. I don't think we should make it look like North Dakota's shut down to business and new opportunities, but we also got to just make sure that we're protecting our citizens and that it's going to work for them.
Yeah, and another issue that's very similar and is putting legislators and local government into a bad spot is the data center debate.
Oh boy.
I mean, that industry has not done itself any favors. The New York Times did an article and said that the opposition to data centers is the most bipartisan issue since beer, which is pretty bipartisan.
Yeah, I can argue that.
And we have seen several of these facilities be put up in North Dakota. Early on, there were some that up in the Williston area that were done the wrong way.
Correct.
And really aggravated the locals and set a bad precedent. Everybody who's in the business, like Applied Digital down in Ellendale and in Harwood and now in Oliver County, they're kind of suffering the negative aspects of those early industry players. And you've got the citizens are very united. We've seen, this is one of the issues where we've seen a very strong left-right unity thing, like the parties, conservative versus Democrat versus liberal and Republican, those lines don't really exist on this issue at all. And so I know that the legislature just put in place a interim committee and had their first hearing in July. By the time this show airs, they probably will have 2 more hearings.
Right.
What are you hearing yourself from District 47 and from Bismarck, and how are you approaching this issue in general?
I have had a few constituents contact me about the data centers, and there's 2 major concerns that they have. Is one, they don't want to build too close to the city. So it's not that they're against that, but the other thing that they're concerned about, which I share the concern, is the energy consumption that they have. And one, I did speak to a lady who's a head of the Nuclear Energy Institute, and asked her about, you've probably heard of them, the portable nuclear reactors that they can build right on spot and such. Mm-hmm. I would prefer that they all have their own energy sources, so they're not, taking electricity off the grid, because anytime that you increase demand, price goes up with it. And I want to make sure that the citizens are not going to be seeing 15, 20, 25% increases annually probably on their bills if we allow the data centers to, connect to the grid. Now, I don't know all the solutions for this. We're learning, this, and that's one of the things. I also think it's new, but it's coming so fast that you're going to have to make some knee-jerk reactions to some of this stuff. And in North Dakota, we only meet every 2 years, so we really can't address a whole lot when we're not in session. But I think there's a general fear of something new, and this is going to be big. But like I've said to several of them, there is a war between us and China on data centers of who's going to control it, who's going to have the most, and who's going to, I certainly don't want to be subject to a bunch of, if we put too many restrictions on it, I don't want to be subject to all the data centers being built in China and us being left behind. So it's another one where I'm on the proceed with caution and learn from the mistakes that you mentioned that have been made in the past and move forward and correct those.
Absolutely. And the other factor in this is the federal government and the fact that the Trump administration, on both the CO2 pipeline issue, the carbon capture, sequestration, and the data centers, they're very in favor of it. And they're very strongly promoting the idea that maybe federal should trump, pun intended, the state level government regulation process, which is contradictory to what Republicans traditionally have supported. Supported the states having more control over these things rather than the feds. And what we're seeing is that dynamic is going to put a lot of elected officials at the local level on the hot seat. We got 30 seconds left, Mike. Give your final stump speech here for voters.
On the subject you just had?
Or anything, just anything, yeah.
Oh, well, on the subject you just had, I mean, the federal government is extremely concerned about national security. And I tend to agree that we have to make sure that we're still safe and we're not going to be subject to other countries around the world. So I would say we once again just proceed with caution on that. And but yeah, I don't know what's going to happen from the federal government, but it's very likely that they're going to probably come in and trump, like you said, state laws in this because of that major issue.
Definitely. Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dustin.
Today, District 47's got some choices to make, and we'll see you next time on Open Range.
Hey y'all, it's Trent on the loose. I want to tell you, Lady Blue and I, we got a lot of miles together, but you know what? You and I got a lot of miles together as well. And all I want to do is bring to you the information on how we maintain a domestic supply of food and fuel for future generations. So I'm going to continue to travel the world and unearth the stories that make it possible that we can live in a free United States of America.
Hello, friends. This is Culture Crossroads. Join me, Andrew Southbridge, and my co-hosts, R.C. Williams and Juliana Ormond, as we tackle the issues shaping America. From politics to pop culture, to faith, freedom, family, and the future. From a faith-based conservative perspective that you won't get anywhere else. We stand at the intersection of faith and freedom. This is Culture Crossroads. Culture Crossroads, Sundays at 5 p.m. Central on BET TV.
Come on in and experience small town hospitality and the personalized care that makes car buying a pleasure.
We know that every journey starts with the right car. Whether it's school drop-off, weekend road trips, or your daily commute, we have the right vehicle for you and your family.
With trusted brands, affordable prices, and a team that treats you like family, finding your next car has never been so easy.
We pride ourselves on personal attention and quality service. Facet Motors, where our customers send their friends.
Welcome to Arrowhead Cleaners. Newly renovated, modernized, and ready to make your cleaning needs hassle-free. From commercial and residential wash and fold laundry services to the latest in professional dry cleaning techniques, we are dedicated to your unique needs, offering alterations, fabrications, and even custom hat making. So whether you're a busy professional, a family on the go, or even a rodeo champion, Arrowhead Cleaners is here to take your things from messed up to dressed up. Now celebrating our 64th year in Arrowhead Plaza.
$27,000 in credit card debt.
You have to radically do something different, because if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting.
Hey y'all, it's Trent on the loose. Join me on the trip and unearth the stories on how we maintain a domestic supply of food and fuel for future generations of American citizens like our forefathers did.